lying by omission. The way Ethan's video is framed seems to imply that Israel's genocide in Gaza is not actually a genocide. He never explicitly uses the term himself, but it's presented as just another thing that's happening in the Middle East that's sad, but ultimately the product of a war. That there are deaths on both sides, and that all we need to have peace is rational dialogue between these two sides. This could not be further from the truth, and to better understand this, we need to talk about Gaza.
Just as a heads up, white people like this who live in the West, who never have to deal with any of this violence whatsoever, love dead Palestinian children almost as much as Hamas does, because that's where they get their moral and then financial support from. If you're out here talking about like fantastic pie-in-the-sky dreams, like one-state solutions, and saying that's the only way that peace will ever happen, you don't have any desire for peace in this region. All you do is talk about the conflict because you make money off it, or you enjoy it, or you virtue signal on it, and that's it. None of these people have any actual desire to see anything improve for any of the lives of these people. Because if they did, they'd be talking about realistic solutions, not fucking stupid shit that not even Palestinians want. Because Palestinians don't want an even state where everybody has equal rights as well. Literally nobody wants this. Not the Jews nor the Palestinians. It's just a white man's fantasy.
Like a lot of the people using it on social media here have a general lack of understanding of the gravity of what that term actually means. Genocide isn't just bad thing that's happening where people are dying.
Yes, it is now. That is what you guys have turned genocide into. It's a bad thing that's happening where people are dying. You've already made it clear that you don't give a fuck about any of the legal definitions or anything whatsoever for that. It's just when a lot of people die, it's genocide. That's it.
It's a Holocaust. The U.S.-Israeli Holocaust. That's what it should be called.
I thought Holocaust more specifically refers to just the killing of the Jews, or does that refer to all the killings that Germany did? I know that like the Shoah or whatever. Isn't that the Jewish term? I don't know, it's Hebrew. What the fuck?
The fact that Israel's actions in Gaza amount to genocide isn't controversial.
Not controversial? This is like one of the most controversial things in the world right now. What do you mean? There's tons of hot debate over this. But he's going to say not according to the experts that I like.
This is the near universal consensus among top human rights groups and humanitarian organizations that Israel is committing genocide, countless war crimes, and crimes against humanity. The United Nations, Euromed Monitor, Doctors Without Borders, the International Committee of the Red Cross, Israeli human rights groups like B'Tselem, various Holocaust scholars, they're all saying the same thing.
Issue is that a lot of the people that deal with this particular question literally only deal with it in relation to Israel-Palestine, and it seems to be the only one that they give a fuck about. And because of the way that they weaponize the standards and the language here against Israel, it makes it very hard to take them seriously. Like, these people are all absolutely and utterly silent on what's happening with Assad and Syria, where hundreds of thousands of people were killed. In Yemen, with just children alone, the malnutrition deaths are, I think, in excess of like 50,000 down there. Not to mention the countless other people that have died due to the restricting of aid by the Houthis. There's just so much of this type of stuff that goes on that everybody's silent on. And then they see Israel in the middle of it is a war, whether you like it or not. They call it a genocide. For what reason? Because really just because a lot of people are dying, and very few people seem to be willing to engage with the actual legal language of what is a genocide, and they just like to use it as lots of people dying, therefore it's bad. It's just really stupid.
ICJ issued several provisional measures to prevent the possibility of a genocide taking place. Provisional measures which Israel has failed to follow completely, like how the vast majority of these deaths have been Palestinian civilians, including over 15,000 children.
I love these numbers, but the way in the West that we call people children just because they're under the age of 18 kind of ignores, unfortunately, the realities of a lot of the international conflict. Remember, the goal of Hamas is always to induce as many civilian casualties as possible. So they love these stupid numbers given about like deaths of children because it makes them look so good. So if they can put an AK in the hand of a 16, 17-year-old trained to fight and he gets killed, because remember, they never wear uniforms, they booby trap everything, they try to reduce as much civilian casualties as possible. Dipshit white people can come out and say like, oh yeah, Israel's indiscriminately murdering children in the Gaza, they're killing all the kids, all the children. Like, okay, chief. Like, there have been a lot of legitimate civilian deaths in the Gaza Strip. It's just stupid that they weaponize the children language over and over and over again and then never talk about why so many civilian casualties happen here. Like, it's literally Israel is just fighting a war on its own and there's absolutely no responsibility to the other side, which, by the way, international law dictates that there is. Where are the bomb shelters that Hamas has built for their civilian populations? How many times has Hamas worked with Israel to ensure that aid is being delivered to the civilian population? It doesn't happen. In fact, the opposite. They steal aid, right? But nobody talks about this. Nobody cares about this. It's just fucking stupid.
Mass slaughter of these innocent civilians has been intentional.
And all of this language is the language of like the white Western man who doesn't give a fuck about anything that's actually like Israel's just intentionally going in and slaughtering civilians. Like, really? What has Hamas done to protect any of its civilian population at all? There's going to be no answer given to that.
My brother Firas, he screams. The pain is overwhelming as corpses lie by his feet, strike on a school, sheltering thousands of displaced Palestinians.
This is the one thing that Palestinians learn so much better than Jewish people, because for Jewish people, when they die, Jewish people just want to like get the corpses and bury them out of respect or some bullshit as much as possible. People who are fighting on the resistance freedom side in Palestine will literally hold a camera up and encourage their children to run up and die to Israeli soldiers so that they can photograph and show on video afterwards like the sad response from the family. It's actually unhinged behavior. It's very effective propaganda, but it's fucking crazy.
The 2018 border protests, or the Great March of Return, which were recognized by human rights organizations as being overwhelmingly peaceful.
To characterize this as just a mostly wholly peaceful event, that's not true. Hamas had literally gotten in on this, I think, by day one. Also, hold on, just as a quick thing, because this is going to be me countering a whole bunch of retarded pro-Palestinian propaganda. The IDF have done bad things. There have been soldiers that have been doing bad things, and even absent bad things, there's been times where the IDF has moved with such speed and recklessness that it amounts to bad things. A good example of this is the bombing of the WCK trucks. I think 3 or 4 of them, like in a row, like boom, boom, boom. So I'm not here to say that the IDF operates perfectly, but the one-sided summaries of this conflict are actually so fucking retarded. The reason why they are stockpiling tires is because they can set the tires on fire for cover from snipers so that they can then go up and like cut the fence and like run through and shoot. All of this is like the peaceful Great March of Return. Remember this, okay? Who organized this thing? So the concept started when a Palestinian, Ahmed Abu Artima, He made a Facebook post. What if 200,000 demonstrators went out in a peaceful march, stormed the barbed wire east of Gaza, and entered our occupied territories a few kilometers away into Israel proper, waving Palestinian flags and keys of return accompanied by international media? Then they set up tents inside and established a city there. Let's call it Bab al-Sham's city, and thousands of Palestinians inside joined them, insisting on remaining there peacefully without using any form of violence. What can the heavily armed occupation do to these peaceful human marches? Will he kill 10, 20, or 50 of them? And what will he do in the face of the insistence and roaring human advance? If there must be a price, let that price be in the right direction. The direction of returning to Palestine, the direction of gaining new land and deepening the enemy's existential dilemma. When we implement this idea and achieve a historic breakthrough, we will discover how many years we have wasted in vain. Hesitating, revolt, you lose nothing but chains. So the very first inception of this idea was to break through the border wall. But the problem is that almost immediately Hamas seized on this idea and they wanted to weaponize it and use it for their own purposes, basically. There were reports of bus drivers who were complaining that they were being forced to take Hamas operators basically up to the border, like people to fight. Some of these people look like they're fucking 12 or younger, like they're just kids, but they have them up front. They'll have them with slings. They'll have them throwing rocks with their hands. They'll have them setting tires on fire. Like, it's all intentional and it's all part of it. I don't know if I have it saved in here, but there's a video where two parents are watching their child go up and then the child gets shot and then medical personnel run forward and then the camera pans and then you have both parents crying over their dead child. And it's like, Jesus fucking Christ. When you look at people, like if you go to Ukraine or if you look at protests like during Euromaidan in Ukraine especially, right? You can see what a scared people look like who are like, oh shit, we're gonna get fucking shot and killed. We're gonna get murdered. The other side is crazy, right? This is not that. We got this like from 16 different angles. And look, you got all those other people like standing here, like chilling. Like these people don't really seem afraid of getting randomly sniped by Israeli snipers. How come? Why not? Like how many oppressed, destroyed peoples, literally full medical personnel and media on standby as everyone else kind of like stands around and watches while they're being genocided by it's like the craziest genocide ever. Like look, they've got like 7 ambulances here. What the fuck? You've got people running tires up to the front so that they can set them on fire so they can get closer to the wall so that they can eventually cut the fence, right? So that's what you're getting when you have people like this who are like, oh, the 2018 border protest, that was mostly peaceful. And they show you one picture like this. Bro, it's disgusting.
Israel fired on the peaceful crowds with sniper rifles.
Fired on the peaceful crowds. What's your impression watching this video? It must have just been crowds of people just standing there, I guess, and their snipers just shooting them for fun, I guess, huh?
Healthcare workers have testified.
The healthcare workers from UNRWA all said that they weren't affiliated in any way with Hamas or any other terror organizations. All of that has come out to be complete and utter bullshit, unfortunately. So when you get these healthcare workers that are supposed to be nonpartisan and you find out that a lot of them are working directly for Hamas and not like in some medical fashion, but to do propaganda and everything else, it hurts your story a lot. And that's one of the big reasons why support for UNRWA, I think even in Israel, collapsed or we're starting to among the left, which is it's a really bad look. Do human rights orgs really claim that this was a peaceful event? If so, why? When it comes to anything having to do with Israel, people's minds are just broken, including a lot of UN and UN related shit. It's actually, you have to read a lot of the underlying material. Or like the underlying material would be fairly accurate, but then the way that they report it is just unhinged, fucking crazy, stupid shit. It's just, Jews just have that effect on people, I guess. Do you think he thinks the way he presents it, is it how the events happened, or do you think he misrepresents it on purpose? No, I think a lot of these people legitimately do think this way. Keep in mind that like what I'm saying is, well, at least on the Palestinian side, I'm giving you a totally different take that's like worlds apart from anything that's being presented by people at the UN and other people who are supposedly scholars in this area. So I mean, like I think he legitimately probably believes it. It's just unfortunate that for whatever reason Jews just mindfuck humans and make them unable to consider anything that's happening with a reasonable mind.
Again, the world has watched this happen, and
I mean, I don't know what else you're expecting. The ICC issued arrest warrants. I mean, what are people supposed to go to war with Israel? Or also, again, how funny is it that these guys didn't support regime change when it came to Saddam Hussein. They didn't support the assassination of Soleimani. They wouldn't have supported regime change of Bashar al-Assad. They don't support the removal of Hezbollah from southern Lebanon. None of those, okay, of which any individual one of those conflicts amounts to 10 times more than the deaths that have happened in this recent war in Israel-Gaza for regime change. But Israel, we need to go to war with that country. We got to kick that government out. Like, it's just...
A comment I saw on Ethan Klein's video, it read, I feel like a lot of people can't separate Israelis and the Israeli government. And the same with the other side. Like, you are allowed to hate on the people who actually kill people and not hate the innocent adults and children that are being killed from both sides. This is a popular framing among liberals and liberal outlets that we should separate the Israeli people from the actions of their government.
He's not really going to make this argument, is he? Are we going to be child settlers by this, or?
Well, there are some examples from the past where this may be true, such as the case of the American public's attitudes.
Where this may be true. Keep in mind that Bet Salem is literally an organization founded in Israel that these guys love to quote. Bet Salem is literally a Palestinian human rights watch group created by Israelis to inhabit, to be a part of. Where is that equivalent on the Arab side in literally any fucking Arab state? Like, what? But whatever. Oh, and then also, this will be the case for this video too. Remember, if, and that's a stretch, if he ends up talking about any of the violence that Hamas does or any of the Palestinians do against Israel, you better believe he's going to load it with context and understanding. Oh, why were Israelis scared of Palestinians, in the early 2000s? Well, they're racist, they're hateful, they're pro-genocide, they're Nazis. Jews are just bloodthirsty. No, I'm sorry. Whoa, not Jews. I meant, my bad. I just meant Zionists, of which 90% of Jews basically are. Zionists are bloodthirsty animals who just want to see the death of all Palestinians. Okay.
Vast majority of the Israeli public supports this genocide. Months into the genocide, polling showed that over 95% of Jewish Israelis supported the IDF's actions, with a majority indicating that the IDF was not using enough force in Gaza. The force in question there being, genocide. They wanted more. It wasn't enough.
So funny too. This polling was in early November of 2023. So this was 1 month after October 7th, which was an insane attack on these other people. And it's like, we're going to hold them accountable for their opinions right then and right there. That's just unhinged.
Just weeks ago, polling indicated that the Trump administration's plan to facilitate the ethnic cleansing of Gazans was supported by over 80% of Jewish Israelis. Another way to get a handle on the seemingly ubiquitous genocidal fervor among Israelis is by just talking to them.
How many civilians have been killed in Gaza, from what you know?
Who gives a shit?
Okay, but don't you feel like, for example, children?
Children grow up to be Arabs. I read the numbers last week. My memory died and went to heaven. I don't think children should suffer. That is a natural result.
Like, these opinions that Israelis have, especially older ones, about Palestinians are absolutely unhinged. That's true. But are we going to say that Palestinians don't have unhinged opinions about Israelis? Well, those are justified opinions. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
There is no such thing as Palestinians. They're Arabs who have many countries to flee to and nobody wants them. But if we do call them Palestinians, their parents use them as human shields to gain sympathy.
That is true.
The natural instinct of a Jewish mother is to protect her child. Palestinian women do not have that.
Unfortunately, it's unhinged, but that is absolutely true. Like, you got a guy set up here to get shot. That's the whole point. That's why you've got at least 3 cameras recording. You've got medical personnel on standby. And then there we go. We got another successful video.
To the world, show them that we are dying every day here.
It's obvious, right? It's open, right? This is the goal. The goal is civilian death. Even in that original Facebook post we read, right? Well, if they kill 10 of us, 50 of us, 100 of us, you know, the world can't ignore us any longer. Like, that's the goal.
Many, if not most, of the Palestinians were peaceful, but some of them moved very close to the fence.
That is true. Like, the majority of the people there were not at the fences fighting. But there's a strange word game that happens sometimes. I notice like conservatives do this as well. So for instance, if we look at January 6th, the vast majority of people at the demonstration at J6 were peaceful. That's undeniable. But it would be strange to say it was a mostly peaceful protest. That's kind of a word game. It was an insurrection, or at the very least it was a riot, if you don't want to call it an insurrection. It was a riot. When you don't like a thing, you talk about what the whole thing was. But when you do like the thing, you break it down into the percentage of people there, you know? Like in any riot, my guess is it's probably a minority of people that are actually breaking and damaging and destroying shit. It's not like 10,000 people are all breaking and destroying shit all the time. But at the end of a riot, you would still say that's a riot. Most of the people there might have been rioters, but it was a riot. It was.
This is normal in their society, which is a testament to the fact that their society is not normal. These attitudes align perfectly with the wider Israeli polling data, but also because it's almost impossible to find anyone in Israel saying anything else.
It's almost impossible to find anyone in Israel saying almost anything else. What is Bet Salem? Some of these Palestinian rights groups are literally from Israel. They're literally Israeli orgs. Does he even know that?
Here's according to anti-Zionist Israelis themselves. They are alone.
Everyone around us are completely genocidal maniacs. Everyone around you. And I don't mean it metaphorically. It's not metaphorically. It's literally everybody. It will be your family. It will be your teachers. It will be your colleagues. Everyone around you. So you're alone. Even if we will gather all of those anti-Zionists together from Jerusalem or Tel Aviv or Haifa or whatever, it will not be more than, I don't know, 500?
There's no tangible...
Like, who is she from? I guess she sounds like she's from Israel. This is like fucking born and has lived in Tel Aviv their whole life and has never left whatever fucking part of the city. They're like, this is a ultra minority opinion. Like, in the West, we like to present it as some, well, especially in like younger white people who don't give a fuck about Arabs or Jews, we like to present this as though there's this hot debate in Israel with all these anti-Zionist Israelis. It's like, oh, no, there's a lot of people. There's like a realistic opinion about a bunch of Jews that want to disassemble the entire state of Israel. Like, this is a crazy fringe opinion. These are not like rational thinking people. These are just crazy activist people. There is no abolition of the state of Israel. You're going to just ship out 7 million Israeli Jews from the country and have them go live, what, in the United States? Like,
they also delight in going through women's underwear drawers. And this is a sort of recurring obsession.
It's young men doing retarded young men things, which they shouldn't be. That's not an excuse. It's stupid. And they should be punished appropriately for it. And they make their whole country and their whole people look fucking retarded for it. But these same people that are pointing to like the Israelis wearing the underwear would like deny the fact that there were like mass rapes on October 7th. Also an opinion that the UN holds, by the way, but we only selectively cite the UN here. Based. The Hannibal Directive. Build the conspiracy theories that are now widely believed by a lot of pro-Pallies, even if they're not upfront with it, that 50% of the casualties on October 7th were just the IDF following the Hannibal Doctrine by saying a large percentage of the civilians might have been killed by the IDF, but he won't give a percentage because he's also a fucking coward. The idea that there was some huge order to start indiscriminately murdering even civilians if Israel thought that they had been captured by fucking Hamas, there's no evidence of this. The strongest thing I saw was I think there was a Haaretz article where I think an anonymous soldier claimed to have heard Hannibal Directive or something said on the radio, but it would be astounding if there was only one person in the entire military that heard this. I don't believe it.
On October 7th, Israel issued the Hannibal Directive, killing likely many hundreds of its own civilians.
Oh, he said it. Thank you. There you go. Yes. Okay. He just said hundreds though, so your imagination. Because the United Palestinian People represents a stronger negotiating partner on the other end of disputes over what a final resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian problem should look like. And there are just so many people that have so many interests in this conflict to keep it going that there's just too much on both sides to make that ever happen. Israel continues to expand its presence in the West Bank. Israel continues to have a divided Palestinian population that they never have to negotiate peace against. Israel can just point to terrorist attacks or bad things that people like Hezbollah or Hamas are doing as a justification for not negotiating with the Palestinians. The Palestinians never have to make any real political sacrifices. They can always point to the 67 borders. They can always say that Israel's a terrorist state because look at how evil they are when they're bombing people in the Gaza Strip. They can always say that they're just fighting because they want to have a solution that involves a just returning of the land to them or infinite right of return, which is a whole other topic. The annoying thing is that like if you actually want the parties to solve this issue, Israel has to make some tough sacrifices, of which they're unwilling to do. And the Palestinians have to make some tough sacrifices, which they're unwilling to do. So neither side wants to make any sacrifices. Everybody around the world is super interested in seeing the conflict continue. And it's just like, it's a crime that these fucking retarded dipshits right here are like so invested in telling one side of the story to just keep the conflict going forever. Like, it's easy to say that this is a genocide, it's apartheid, I'm glad we're giving the Palestinians a justification to fight forever when you're not the one picking up a gun to fight. Like, people like you are invested in keeping this conflict going forever. And it's not going to end in Palestinian favor, right? We've seen that. It was never going to end with them winning militarily. That's just not going to happen. So what the fuck are we doing here? Like, it's stupid, whatever.
All of this while still calling himself a stalwart ally to the Palestinians.
I've been a stalwart supporter of the Palestinian cause for many years.
This is what makes liberal Zionism so insidious. He is using humanistic appeals to things like peace and safety, but doing so in a way that distracts from the actual source of the problem. The problem is Zionism and the genocidal Israeli state.
Yes, at least he's honest. They're more honest about it now. They're braver, I guess. The problem is that Jews cannot live in the Middle East. Or if they do want to live in the Middle East, it has to be in an Arab majority state where they're subjugated by the Arab population. That's the only way that they'll ever be allowed to do it. Be honest about it, at least, coward. Like, you can't tell me there's a reason to shoot a guy in a wheelchair, right? Like, bro, come on. Something's got to change here, okay? It can't be like this. This can't be the case, okay? We got to do something about this. All right?